Hello there, I'm Rami, and it's time to dive back into Warrior Cat's scrambled genetics. Before I get into it, I'd like to say that if you don't know a lot about cat genetics, I'd really recommend watching Little Hungry Warrior's cat genetics videos, which I have linked below. Last time, we mapped out Mothflight's lineage, which was limited to just 2 generations. This time, however, we'll be combing through Greywing's family, which is much larger. In this tree is Greywing, his mother, his siblings' families, and his family, which altogether adds up to 31 cats. And that's without including members like adopted family, which I am going to include just for fun. Because this family is much more expansive, I'm going to have to break the tree up into multiple parts. In this video, I'll be covering Greywing's immediate family, including his mother, siblings, mate, and his kits, as well as a couple quick detours such as Jagged Peak's family, Slate's brother, and Turtletail's family, since Greywing somewhat considered those kits his own. Now, before we can do anything else, we have to talk about Quiet Rain, who is the mother of Greywing, Clear Sky, Jagged Peak, and Fluttering Bird. She is described as a sleek-furred, speckled gray molly with blue eyes and snow-white specks around her muzzle. This is very easy. First, we'll give her a big B for black on her black base locus, as well as 2 recessive little Ds on the dilution locus to make her gray instead of black. Next, 1 dominant big A on the agouti locus to make her a tabby. Quiet Rain is a spotted tabby, which means that she's a mackerel with high spotting polygene, which acts to break up the stripes and make them look more like spots. So that's a big MC on the mackerel locus to make her mackerel, and though I can't write out a simple 2-gene representation of spotting like I can for everything else so far, we can just say that her spotting polygenes are high. She's also low white, giving her white speckles on her face, so we'll give her 1 S and 1 W on her white locus, making her low white. This also makes it possible for her to have her blue eyes. Finally, she's a short hair, so 1 big L on the fur length locus. Because she doesn't have a mate with a canon description, we can move straight on to her kids. This also means that I can do whatever I want with their father's genes, so I have a lot of wiggle room with what is possible here. Their first of their children is the unfortunate Fluttering Bird, who is a tiny brown molly kit with sleek fur and yellow eyes. This means she's just a short-hair chocolate cat. Very simple. First, she needs a little B on her blacklit base locus to make her chocolate. This could come from either parent. Quiet Rain could be carrying little B chocolate under her more dominant big B black, or her father could have it. I'll say that it came from her father just to give him something going on. We don't know what's happening on her second allele, but as long as it isn't big B for black, we really don't need to care. Now that she's chocolate, Fluttering Bird needs 2 little A's on the agouti locus to make her solid instead of tabby. Little A solid is recessive to big A agouti, so Quiet Rain can be carrying it under her big A, and her father can also be carrying it, and so Fluttering Bird gets both her little A's. She's also non-dilute, so she needs at least 1 big D. Again, we can say that her father has that, and he passes it on to her. However, Fluttering Bird needs to have 1 little D since that's all Quiet Rain has to give. That won't affect her dilution though, because big D is dominant to little d. She has no white on her, so she gets Quiet Rain's W, and her father can also have a W to give. Finally, she's short hair, so she just needs her mother's big L, and she's done. Second of 4 is Jagged Peak, who is a small, lithe, thick-furred gray tabby tom with blue eyes and a twisted, limp hind leg. He's very similar to Quiet Rain, so he'll be getting a lot of her alleles. Big B for black, then 2 little Ds for dilute. He can only get 1 little D from Quiet Rain, but his father can be carrying it under his non-dilute big D. He also gets big A for agouti and big MC for mackerel. However, he isn't spotted like Quiet Rain, but we can just say his polygenes aren't as high as hers are. Unlike Quiet Rain, I see him as long hair, so he needs 2 little L's. Fortunately, little L is recessive, so both parents can be carrying it. Last, he doesn't have any white on him, so he gets 2 W's like his sister. However, this does mean that his eyes can't be blue, so I'll change them to green. Jagged Peak also has a mate and kits, so we'll cover them now. His mate is Holly, a wiry black molly with prickly, bushy fur and green eyes. So she gets a big B for black and a big D to make her non-dilute. She's not a tabby and has no white, so 2 each of little A's and W's. Last, she's long hair, so 2 little L's. Super easy. The first of their kits is Nose, a brown splotchy tabby molly with white tips on her nose and tail and yellow eyes. I take this to mean that she's a chocolate classic tabby. So she needs little B for chocolate first, and really that could come from either parent since Holly could be carrying it under her big B, and Jagged Peak could have gotten it from his father and be carrying it under his big B. We'll see Jagged Peak has it. She's non-dilute, so she gets her big D from Holly and a little D from Jagged Peak, since that's all he can give. She's also a tabby, so big A from Jagged Peak and little A from Holly. But unlike her father, Nose is a classic tabby. This means that her stripes are large and blotchy rather than thin and tiger-like. Classic patterning is recessive, so she needs 2 little MCs to be classic. Luckily, classic patterning is recessive, so Jagged Peak can be carrying it under his big MC and could have gotten it from either parent. Holly isn't a tabby at all, so she can have anything at all on her pattern loci. So Nose gets 2 little MCs, making her classic. Next, she's low white, which presents as a small patch of white on her nose and her tail tip. She needs an S and a W for this, but neither parent has white on them, so she can't get an S and can't have her white spots. However, I am willing to give Jagged Peak a little bit of white, which he got from Quiet Rain. This is both because I think it's important that Duno has her white, since it's what she was named for, and because giving Jagged Peak a little bit of non-canonical white allows him to have his blue eyes back. So Jagged Peak is now SW, and he gives his S to Nose. Last, both of her parents are long-haired, but I don't really care either way if their kids are short hair or long hair, so Nose gets to have little L for long hair. Second is Eagle Feather, who is a brown tom with yellow eyes, broad shoulders, and a striped tail, which to me means he's a heterozygous ticked chocolate tabby. So he gets the same treatment as his sister on his black base, dilution, and agouti loci to make him a chocolate tabby. However, Eagle Feather is heterozygous ticked, meaning that his main body is stripe-free, but his legs, tail, and face still have some stripes. So he needs 1 big TA for ticked and 1 little TA for non-ticked. He can get the little TA from Jagged Peak, who has 2 of them since he's non-ticked, and Holly, who isn't tabby and could have anything in the way of pattern genes, can have a big TA to give to Eagle Feather. However, Holly does need to have little TA as well to give to her other kits to make them non-ticked. He has no white, so he gets a W allele from both parents, and he also has to be long hair, so double little L. The last of their kits is Stormpelt, a lithe, thick-furred, broad-shouldered, scarred, mottled gray tom with blue eyes, a bushy tail, a pink nose, and a torn ear tip. I think he's a gray classic tabby, so he gets a big B for black from either parent, and he needs 2 little D's to be dilute. Jagged Peak can give 1 of his, and we can say Holly is carrying it under her big D. He gets Jagged Peak's big A for agouti, and he can take little MC from both parents to make him classic. He also takes little TA and W from both parents to keep him non-ticked and whiteless. Now, him not having white means that he can't keep his canon blue eyes. Usually, I like to change blue to green in situations like this, but for Stormpelt, I decided to make his eyes yellow, both to match his siblings and to evoke lightning to match his name. And lastly, he's a long hair, so 2 little L's for him. Okay, now we can return to Quiet Rain's kits. Next is Clear Sky, or Skystar. He is a thick-furred, broad-shouldered, long-legged, light gray tom with pale ice blue eyes, large paws, a torn ear, tufted ears, and a long tail. And oh my goodness, why do they make these descriptions so long? I see him as lilac, which is dilute chocolate, so he gets his dad's little B and a little D from both parents. He's not a tabby, so he gets 2 little A's as well. Now, he doesn't have white on him, so usually I would give him his 2 Ws. However, firstly, this would mean that he needs his eye color changed, which I just don't like in this case. He's Skystar. He needs his sky blue eyes. Secondly, him having a bit of white will be useful for when I do his kits. So to save myself a bit of trouble, I'm going to preemptively give him Quiet Rain's S instead of her W. Finally, 2 little L's for long hair, and he's done. I'm going to cover Skystar's extended family in another video, so let's move on and finally cover Greywing. Greywing is really basic. He is a sleek, dark gray tom with golden eyes and a torn ear tip. So he's a short-haired, solid blue cat. Big B for black and 2 little D's for dilute to make him gray, 2 little A's for solid and 2 W's for no white, and finally 1 big L for short hair. His mate is Slate, who is pretty much identical to Greywing. She's a soft, thick-furred, dark gray molly with wide amber eyes, a scar on her belly, and ripped ear tips. So, same deal here, except I think she's a long hair. Big B black, double little D dilute, double little A solid, 2 W's for no white, and double little L long hair. Quick and easy. Before we discuss their kits, Slate also has a brother, who I'm going to quickly go over. Cricket is an orange tabby tom with green eyes, so he's Firestar, before Firestar was even a thought in Starkland's mind. Now, Cricket is actually the first orange cat I've covered so far. Congrats, Cricket. This means that he needs 1 big O for orange, and since orange is sex-linked and the alleles are on the X chromosome, he only gets the 1 allele, and the other slot is taken up by his Y chromosome. He's non-dilute, so he only needs 1 big D. Orange cats also always present as tabby, no matter if they have big A for a goatee or not, so we can leave that locus entirely blank and just not worry about it. I think he's a mackerel, so he gets a big MC there, and he doesn't have any white, so 2 W's. Lastly, I think he's a short hair, so just 1 big L. Quickly, let's take a look at what Slate and Cricket's parents' genomes might have looked like. Both parents need to have at least 1 of every allele that either kid is homozygous for. So that means both parents have a little A, a little D, a W, and a little L. Since Slate is not orange, she has 2 little O's on her X chromosomes. So both parents also need to have a little O, and their mother needs a big O to give to Cricket, since their dad needs to give Cricket his Y. And either of them could have the alleles for the dominant traits Slate and Cricket display. So either of them must have a big B, a big MC, a big D, and or a big L. Now, Greywing and Slate have 3 kits together: Blackear, Whitetail, and Silverstripe, which I think are just entirely bland names. We'll cover Blackear first. Blackear is a patched black and white tom with amber eyes, so he can get a big B for black from either parent, and he needs a big D to be non-dilute. Okay, so this is impossible. Since non-dilution is dominant, I can't pull a recessive gene out of Greywing and Slate's genomes to make Blackear black. And I can't make either parent non-dilute because that would change their entire design. They would functionally be an entirely different cat. So instead, I am forced to make Blackear gray with the little D's he gets from his parents. Now, not only is his name bland, it's also nonsensical. For our next complication, Blackear has white. I see him as low white, so it's better than it could be, but he still needs to get his 1S from somewhere. I'm going to give Slate some little patches of white, making her SW and allowing her to pass her S to Blackear. He's not a tabby, so he gets 2 little A's. Last, I think he's a long hair, so he gets 1 of Slate's little L's, and Greywing can be carrying a little L to give as well. Their next kit is Whitetail, a broad-shouldered, dark gray tom with white patches and amber eyes. So he's very similar to Blackear, except that he's dilute, and I think he's a short hair. So he gets a big B and 2 little D's to make him gray, 2 little A's to make him solid, and he gets Slate's shiny new S, along with one of Greywing's W's to make him low white. He gets Greywing's big L to make him a short hair, but he also takes one of Slate's little L's, making him heterozygous. Last is Silver Stripe, a pale gray tabby molly with blue eyes. I see her as a lilac mackerel tabby, so she needs a little B and 2 little D's to make her lilac. We can have Greywing carrying little B to give to her. Now, Silver Stripe is a tabby, and neither parent is a tabby, so as it stands now, she can't be a tabby. However, I don't want her name to be as nonsensical as Black Ears by making Silver Stripe have no stripes. Again, Slate will take the fall here and become a tabby. However, I will make her a heterozygous ticked tabby, removing the stripes from her main body and just having her have stripes on her legs, tail, and face, which I think makes it kind of look like striations and rocks, which fits her name. Now Silver Stripe can get her big A from Slate and can get her big MC from either parent, since ticked overrides patterning and Greywing is solid and could be carrying anything. She gets a W from both parents since she isn't white, and because she has no white, her eyes can't be blue, so green it is. Finally, she gets a big L to make her short hair and takes Slate's little L too. Finally, let's go over Turtletail's family quickly, since she was Greywing's mate at some point and he considered her kits his own. Turtletail herself is a lithe, sleek-furred, predominantly white, orange and black tortoiseshell molly with green eyes and a stumpy tail. Immediately, she's a tortoiseshell, so she needs 1 big O for orange and 1 little O for not orange. Her non-orange patches are black, so she needs a big B and she's non-dilute, so 1 big D to keep her black and orange instead of cream and gray. Now, even though her orange patches are going to look tabby no matter what, her black patches are not tabby, so she needs 2 little A's to prevent her from being brownened. We'll still give her big MC to make the tabby patterns on her orange patches mackerel. She's also high white, so she gets 2 S's, and I see her as short-haired, so 1 big L. Done. Next is her terrible, terrible ex-Tom. He is described as a copper-colored Tom with a thick pelt colored like autumn leaves, so I guess we know for double sure that he's orange. Since he's male, he gets 1 big O to make him orange, along with his Y, and a big D to make him non-dilute. I think that his mandatory tabby patterning would be classic, so he gets 2 little MCs. He hasn't got any white, so he gets 2 W's. This does mean that with Turtletail being homozygous for S, all of their kids will be low white. This isn't really an issue though, since 2 of them are already low white, and the third can just have a very small amount. Lastly, he's a long hair, so 2 little L's, and now we can say bye forever to Tom. Turtletail's first kit is Owl Eyes, who later becomes Owlstar. He is a lean, lithe, sleek, broad-shouldered, dark gray Tom with a wide forehead and wide, brilliant amber eyes, so right off the bat he needs a big B for black and 2 little D's to make him dilute. He can get the B from Turtletail, and both parents can be carrying little D under their big D's. Since both of his parents have orange, I'm going to write in his little O, which he gets from Turtletail, keeping him black-based. He's solid, so he gets 1 of Turtletail's little A's, and since Tom's Agouti alleles are a complete mystery, he's free to be carrying a little A too. We do know he's carrying a little MC, since that's all Tom has to pass, but it doesn't matter since he's solid. Owlstar is a short hair, so he can take Turtletail's big L, however he also gets a little L from Tom. Finally, canonically, he doesn't have any white on him, so I would give him 2 W's, but as I said earlier, all 3 of these kits need to be low white, since Turtletail only has S's to give and Tom only has W's, so he gets a little bit of white on his chest. The second kit is Pebbleheart, the first Shadow Clan medicine cat. Pebbleheart is a soft-furred, dark gray tabby Tom with a white mark on his chest and amber eyes. He gets the same big B, little O, double little D combo as his brother, however, unlike Owlstar, he's tabby. Again, Tom's Agouti genes do not matter, so we can say that Tom has the big A that Pebbleheart needs. though he also needs to get one of Turtletail's little A's. I think that he's a spotted tabby, which means that he needs to be a mackerel tabby. He can get his big MC from Turtletail and is also carrying little MC. He's low white, both canonically and forcibly, so he gets an S and a W. And I think he's long-haired, so he gets a little L from Tom, and we can say that Turtletail is carrying little L. Their final kit is Sparrowfur, later Sparrowstar, who is a sleek tortoiseshell molly with white paws, a white belly, a splotchy tail, a black splash on her throat, and amber eyes. First, she's a tortie like her mom, so she gets Tom's big O and Turtletail's little O. She also gets a big B, 2 little D's, and 2 little A's to make her non-orange patches black and non-tabby, and to make her non-dilute. I think her orange patches are mackerel, so just like Pebbleheart, she gets big MC from Turtletail and is carrying little MC from Tom. Finally, she gets an S and a W to make her low white, and she gets Turtletail's big L to make her short-haired and is carrying little L. Alright, that's everyone I plan to cover this time. The next genetics video I do will be detailing Skystar and Thunderstar's family tree, so keep a lookout for that. If you liked this video, please consider liking and subscribing, and if you have feedback or requests, leave a comment. If you'd like to support me, I have my Ko-Fi link in the description, and I do commissions, so check that out. With that all said, it's time to go.